This episode of Nerds of the Multiverse is not brought to you by Pornhub because they refuse to sponsor us. Hashtag please sponsor us, Pornhub. Hello everybody and welcome back to Nerds of the Multiverse. I'm your host today, TurboStew, and I'm of course joined by BugFang of Earth 9 or 10, whichever episode we're on, I forget. Or maybe you're a previous BugFang I've already had on the show, who knows? The continuity is whatever you as the audience choose it to be.
I don't think that's how continuity works.
It is now. It's called headcanon, and the canon of our show is whatever the headcanon of the viewer is.
Oh God, that's so messy. Oh no.
I know, we're like the DC universe now.
Oh, speaking of headcanon and the DC universe.
That is going to be our first topic today. So basically, Crisis on Infinite Earths, man. You know how much I'm looking forward to this event, and despite some of the negative things I'm about to say, this is still like one of the most hyped things I'm like, you know, really excited for. I just want to point that out now. I'm going to say some negative things here, but I'm really excited for this event. So let's start with the positive stuff, though.
All right.
Yeah.
Try and get me into the event.
Yeah, I will. And then I'm going to tell you about the negative stuff. So the positive things about it. So we know that Tom Welling now has finally been confirmed to actually be coming back for Crisis on Infinite Earths. Now, the one thing that people need to keep in mind about this is that the script has been done, and basically they're already starting post-production. So the fact that it's only being announced now means that more than likely he's not going to get that much screen time. It's going to be a very small cameo role, but it's still pretty cool to my opinion, I think, that we're going to have now 3 different versions of Clark Kent on this event.
Do we know he's going to be a Clark Kent?
Yes, we do know that he's playing the same Clark Kent from Smallville.
All right.
That is confirmed. Right. We don't know if he's going to wear the Superman outfit. Tom Welling himself has expressed many times how he didn't want to wear the Superman outfit, and that's why they had to CG it on him in the last episode.
Which is a shame. Hey, he might feel differently about it now.
I know. I'm not saying that's how he feels now. I'm just saying back in the day, that's definitely why they weren't able to go through with it before.
Oh,
things could change,
jacket wearing freak.
Still
love that show, though.
Yeah. The other news, though, this is getting... Or actually, I'm going to say one more positive thing before I get to the more negative side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Another positive thing is that they just literally an hour ago released a picture of Brandon Routh's Kingdom Come Superman, and it looks beautiful. Like,
I mean, the Kingdom Come Superman does look beautiful.
Oh yeah, they make Brandon Routh. They aged him up the perfect amount, so it's not like super heavy. He doesn't look like super old, but he does have like kind of the gray hair on the side there.
We in the black S background?
Yes.
Yeah.
You have the black S.
Oh,
you even, and this is something I was worried that, you know, the CW was going to be too cool for, but nope, they weren't too cool for it. He has the trousers.
Good.
Thankfully.
God, I am so sick of Superman outfits without the stupid underwear. The stupid underwear are what make the suit. Otherwise, you don't have like a very important break in the suit, and it looks awful. Just blue head to toe. I'm sorry. It looks bad.
I wouldn't say it looks bad, but I will say that it does kind of take away one of the points from the original Superman, which is him being based on, you know, strong men from the circus, essentially.
Like that everyone was.
Yeah, like every superhero was back then.
Look at Batman.
Yeah,
look at Spiderman.
Well, I'm okay with modern versions of Superman not having it. If you're going to have a classic version of him, like the Brandon Routh Superman, you got to have the trousers.
I'm honestly not okay with them not having it. You know why? You know in the comics famously, what was one of the earliest Supermen without the trousers?
Huh.
The evil cyborg Superman. And it was like part of the point was like this dehumanizing, more alien, futuristic, sleek like Superman replacement came in, and then it was evil because of course it was. The trousers are important. They're like they're as odd as it sounds. The trousers are a symbol of humanity.
You know what? That is actually a really good point. And to like add on top of that, what's funny about that is that was during the 90s when everything was dark and edgy. So even in the 90s, they knew that they had to have the trousers.
Even in the 90s, they were like, yeah, no trousers equals evil, trousers equal good. It's just true. It's just how it's always been. Now, if they want to modernize the trousers, make it like a belt thing, I've seen that, and it's or if they want to make it, I don't know, just weirder looking. I don't get what people have against the classic trousers, but you know.
Yeah, but now we go on to some of the bad news of Crisis that I have to bring up, which gives me some concerns. And so I should point out, so I know a lot of people are looking forward to seeing Lois and Clark Kent from Smallville coming into this. But like I said before, you got to really lower your expectations on how big of a role they're going to play. And the biggest example of this is recent news with Michael Rosenbaum, who was very straight up about why he's not
Michael Rosenbaum?
Lex Luthor. Yeah, he was very straightforward on why he isn't coming back into Crisis on Infinite Earths, and
we could use more Lex Luthors, Lex Luthors.
It's why, you don't want to get your hopes up for Clark Kent and Lois Lane's role. So basically, he was asked on Twitter, it was Twitter, when he finally said, I know a lot of you guys have been asking me why I haven't accepted the role on Crisis, so I'm just going to be straight up with you and tell you, I got a call from my agent while I was visiting my dad in his retirement home, and my agent said, hey, they were asking if you wanted to be in Crisis. They currently don't know what your role will be. They don't know when you're going to be shooting, and they need to know now, and they don't know how much they're going to be able to pay you. And with all that stacked on top of it, he just kind of said, yeah, I'm going to have to pass.
Yeah, that's pretty garbo.
Yeah. So I in no way blame Michael for not wanting to do it.
If Crisis was like a fan thing, I would kind of get it, but it's not. It's a very professional thing.
Yeah, this was something that they've literally had a year, probably even more than that, to plan for.
Yeah, let's be honest. They've probably been planning this since the first crossover event that they did.
So it's just, it's bizarre to me. And the biggest thing, and don't get me wrong, I don't think it'll be this bad, but it kind of reminds me, it gave me the vibe of the mega battle from Power Rangers. Power Rangers Mega Super Force. God, that's such a dumb title. If Mega Force wasn't bad enough, they have to add Super to it. But anyways, during the final battle, there was this whole thing where they're hyping it up. They're like, oh, veteran Rangers are coming back. It's going to be the biggest crossover we've ever done in Power Rangers. You guys are going to love it. We have a whole season to build it up. And then the Rangers come, and literally they're just not even glorified cameos. The only one who has slightly more than a glorified cameo is Tommy Oliver, because of course he does.
It was like almost as bad as that Endgame scene where like they tried to bring all the characters in, but then didn't like actually follow them in an important way and made the entire fight a mess. It's just like how garbage that was. It never works out, does it?
And there goes 300 of our subscribers.
Remember when they tried to play football with the Infinity Gauntlet?
I want it to be known that this is his opinions, not mine, as long as we're fully clear on that.
Remember when they could have had Captain Marvel literally just do a thing, and they didn't?
I love Endgame and everything about it. All right. So anyway,
I dislike Endgame and most of... Well, actually, I don't dislike most of everything about it. I like a lot of things in it. I just dislike it, and I dislike a lot of the things in it, but not most of the things.
But my worry is the vibe I'm getting from it seems very similar to what happened when all the Rangers, the other actors that played Rangers before, didn't show up, and why the roles that were there were so short. A lot of their responses, with some exceptions, were just like, oh, well, we got invited, but it was literally a month before shooting, and we had to fly out to New Zealand, and we kind of had, when you have only a month's notice that you have to fly out to New Zealand for an entire week for what's going to be just a glorified camp, cameo. Yeah, no, I'd pass on that too. Again, any Ranger that was not involved in the mega battle at the end of Super Mega Force, no blame for you guys at all, because, you know, that was the reason for the most part, and I'm getting that kind of vibe with Crisis on Infinite Earths, and I really, I don't think it'll happen as bad, and I really hope not as well, but I am surprised, though, that this is the way they would go about getting such a big member of, like, the DC universe like this.
I'm honestly not. I kind of knew this was happening. It's seemed really obvious for a while that the reason they've been able to do so much with this is because someone in the studio at some point stopped giving a fuck and gave them carte blanche. And there's literally been no oversight. I have to imagine there's no oversight into this process whatsoever. This is whatever the casting guy is and whoever the directors are, all talking about who they can shove in and just calling people up. This smells like desperation. This smells like the desperation of a fan. And I've kind of been getting that sense for a while. Given how far into production they were still announcing new casting. And on one hand, that's really cool because clearly the studio is giving them, you know, free reign. But on the other hand, it sounds kind of chaotic and kind of messy.
It does.
Which leads to stuff like this.
Yeah. So only time will tell. I'm definitely going to be watching all 5 parts when they premiere on the CW. But now let's transition real quick from DC TV to Marvel TV.
We got a whole bunch of Marvel TV stuff.
Yeah. So unfortunate news for the first time actually on this side of things. What sucks is, did you ever watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4?
No. God, no.
Okay, that's too bad because you know what one of the most amazing things in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4 was? Ghost Rider.
Oh, okay. So, for record, I haven't watched seasons 3 or 4 all the way. I have watched a lot of it because my dad watches it.
Okay.
And my dad and I talk about it a lot because we're both nerds. I have a lot of exposure specifically with scenes with Ghost Rider in it. Because, well, it was really cool. So I'll be familiar with characters and events, just not on details.
Okay.
And not on the... Anytime it turned boring again, I walked out of the room. Anytime I was like, oh no, this smells too much like season 2, I walked out of the room.
In other words, the middle of every season.
Pretty
no disrespect
much.
for the show. I mean, they definitely are. It's definitely got a huge fan base, and
Yeah.
there are great things about the show.
A very active fan base too.
Yeah, it's just for me. I always find like in the middle of every season, it just kind of
gets
loses
really
me.
crap.
With the exception of the most recent season when they dropped it down to only 12 episodes, I believe. I think that was actually a wise decision on their part.
I don't think I've seen anything of the most recent season.
Okay, I definitely recommend it.
I kept up with like news about it, and that was it.
I highly recommend this new season. But going back to the Ghost Rider side of things, he was a great part of season 4, and we hadn't seen him from seasons 5 and 6. And what I had assumed was because maybe the Marvel movies were going to do something with a different Ghost Rider, and they didn't want to risk like breaking continuity.
I honestly thought it was just because he was too expensive.
It might have been that too. The special effects for him,
were actually really good. Yeah, they're kind of fantastic.
Like at times,
Especially
I'll go as far
given
to
the TV
say
budget.
they looked better than the movie.
Yeah,
which
I actually totally agree.
Amazing.
There were huge amounts of the effects in the movie that were actually just really cheap things.
I will say this
that can be outdone by Instagram filters now. This felt really cool.
Yeah. I will say this about the movie, though. The special effects looked really dumb, but at the same time, they were also kind of fun to look at. They were a guilty pleasure for me. I'm sorry.
But yeah, my theory for why they actually cut him out is mostly that maybe they were going to do something with Johnny Blaze in the movie side of things, or started planning for Johnny Blaze to enter like a future movie, or that it was just too expensive to keep up with those special effects in a show that was, while critically doing better, doing even worse in terms of viewership for a while.
Yeah, that could be too. So with Hulu though, the reason it got canceled actually was the one I least expected. So I had no idea Hulu had say in Marvel TV shows, but apparently they were kind of the reason they got canned overall. Now we don't know the details about it, but we do know that it had to do with creative differences with Hulu and Disney. And if I had to guess, now this is a guess, so this is not fact at all. All right, so don't try to say that I know it all. I don't. I'd assume maybe it's because the shows that Hulu has produced on their websites that are Marvel related have been doing decent enough because they go for a wider audience, and I assume that Marvel was going to try to use Hulu as the way to go back to the like R-rated. Yeah. But I'm assuming Hulu probably wasn't interested in that
because they want more viewers themselves.
Exactly. That's my theory.
I think that's actually a pretty solid theory. It makes a lot of sense that like Hulu management, which has stayed on given that Hulu got bought by Disney and crap, would have their own investment and safety in mind, and that they are aware that wider audience stuff brings in more money, and thus are probably going to fight back against being. And I do think Disney will do it anyways. But they're probably gonna fight back against Disney shunting all the like more mature audience stuff onto them. Yeah. Because I mean, why wouldn't they? They want money, right?
Yeah, we want the family friendly stuff too. Yeah, it is a good point. If like a lot of people are going to be probably getting like streaming services for the family. Yeah. Less people who don't have
Hulu than Disney.
Yeah. So it means that like most people that end up getting Hulu over Disney are going to be like usually the college students that just, have their own like TV. But, if it's when it comes to the parents, which are kind of the audience that you want more than anything else, they're going to be the ones that go, well, if I get Hulu, there's less stuff for my kids. So I'm going to go to Disney where not only do I have family-friendly Marvel shows, but I also have these Marvel cartoons that I used to watch as a kid, and now I can introduce them to them.
Just saying. In terms of, if you're a parent for some reason watching us, I don't know why, do be aware, Hulu has a lot of really good kid-friendly stuff, especially given that they have a lot of anime rights. They have like a huge anime library now, a lot of which make great Saturday morning cartoons. They're really good on that front. The Disney streaming service will have zero of that. There will. If you are afraid of not having a reason to keep your Hulu, there are reasons to keep your Hulu. Disney will not have a very wide range of things. They're going to have Disney, they're going to have Pixar, and they're going to have Star Wars, and that's all they're going to have, really.
Do you think they're going to have the Studio Ghibli movies?
No.
Okay.
I actually do not think they'll put the Studio Ghibli movies on Disney Plus.
Okay.
I think they might do something with those, but I don't know what, given that Studio Ghibli's most recent animation TV-wise on a streaming service was a Amazon exclusive.
Okay.
So I don't know. As far as I'm aware, Disney has a publishing deal with them. They don't own Studio Ghibli or anything. So I don't think, in terms of streaming services, they have any say over Studio Ghibli streaming. I could be wrong on that because I don't know the details of TV versus streaming contracts, or if they're different in the first place, or if they ever held the TV streaming, the TV rights to any Ghibli stuff. Maybe they only have film publishing rights. So I don't know. And maybe it's not even publishing rights. Maybe it's literally just distribution. I have no clue. But it wouldn't surprise me if Studio Ghibli stuff popped up on a different streaming service.
Cool.
My prediction would probably be Amazon, given that's where they made their TV show.
I hope at least Amazon keeps a bunch of cool things because There are a lot of reasons why I keep my Amazon Prime account, and they do have some good content. Like I recently just saw the movie. It's a terrible movie, but I love it. I just saw Deathgasm on Amazon Prime, and I highly recommend this movie.
I've had that on my wanna watch list for a long time because I saw a video on it once. That was just a 3-minute rant about how beautifully terrible it was, and I've wanted to see it ever since.
I recommend it. I enjoyed it all the way through.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's almost like Tenacious D, but with a really, really low budget. But like you also with more characters too, because Tenacious D only had Jack and Kyle, and then also not just rock. It's specifically towards heavy metal, whereas Tenacious D was like more a variety of rock. Yeah. So, but the demons and stuff, and then the heavy metal. That's all like reminds me of Tenacious D ish.
Yeah. Pick a Destiny stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. So definitely, I recommend Deathgasm. It's a lot of fun. I'm not just saying that because there's 2 Power Ranger actors that are in it, and they both do an amazing job.
He's just saying that because they're 2 Power Rangers.
Admittingly, that is the reason I watched it, but it's not the reason I enjoyed it. Yeah. So moving on to this news. I was actually surprised you haven't heard of it. So, in a recent book with Bob Iger that he published, he mentioned there was a whole chapter on apparently how George Lucas felt very betrayed with the way they handled Star Wars and the way they left him out of a lot of the creative process in Star Wars. Do you know anything about this, though?
The only thing I know is headlines I read. I've been reading for weeks that have been popping up like whenever I open a new tab on Chrome, and it's like suggested article. I've seen a lot of these suggested articles about George Lucas being sad. I haven't read any of them. I downloaded a video. I still haven't watched it. I downloaded a video on it. But as far as I knew, this was just like George Lucas came forward at some point and said that he was doing a sad.
Yeah.
He was. I kind of assumed it was gonna be like him commenting on where the new trilogy is gone and how he's sad that like the extended universe stuff is gone. Hashtag bring back Mara Jade.
It was very
hashtag not my Luke Skywalker.
It was very bizarre because none of this came from George Lucas himself. I mean, we've had interviews with him in the past where he's basically expressed like how he feels that Star Wars, the biggest disappointment with it is that it doesn't seem to be moving forward. It seems to be going back, which, I mean, I will say this, though. The weird thing about that complaint to me was that the prequels, one of the main themes has always been about history repeating itself.
Right, but with the prequels, that was also the point of his message. And his message had an overarching theme and point to it that he'd been talking about for decades at that point. The sequel series, and the reason he never did it was because he didn't want to repeat that theme, supposedly.
Yeah, I don't know, it just surprised me is all. I'm not saying he's wrong for that opinion, it just, that's the opinion of his surprised me. But anyway, so we'd been getting kind of hints about it before because he'd never gone too deep into what he thought about the movies. He just gave brief thoughts. Like for episode 7, for example, he said fans will definitely love it. And then for episode 8, he's like, it was beautifully shot.
And he was right.
Yeah.
I agree with him on both of those points.
But now for episode 9, what's interesting is not a lot of people know this. Like, I myself didn't know this until a couple days ago, but George Lucas actually does have a little bit of a hand in making episode 9. I don't know.
Oh, really? How much of a hand do you think?
I don't quite know how much.
Because I have a suspicion. I know how much. I have a suspicion JJ brought him back specifically to handle the reshoots around Leia.
It's possible.
I have a feeling that he was specifically brought back to deal with his characters and the end of his characters. I don't think he has a lot to say about a lot of the new characters, but maybe they brought him back for his thoughts on Sidious and for his thoughts on Leia specifically.
And that's very possible. But my theory, though, as to why Bob Iger came forward about this and not George Lucas, because this is the weird part. And keep in mind, everything I'm about to say from here on is all conspiracy. Speculation.
It's all speculation.
Yeah, I don't know Bob Iger as a human being. I don't know any of these famous people I talk about as human beings. So it's all speculation coming from me.
I've met George Lucas twice.
Yeah, I've seen him a few times at the theater.
I have talked to him once.
I have never talked to him.
When I was a kid, and I'm pretty sure it was at like the episode 3 release or something, or around that time.
I know the kind of person he is, not in a bad way, but he doesn't like to talk to fans.
He has a bit of a bad reputation amongst
does.
our peer group.
He does, but at the same time, it's like, I'm just going to choose to give him space because I don't want any interaction I have with him to be a bad interaction.
Right.
And I know for a fact, even if I just were to say hi to him,
that he doesn't like that shit.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I choose not to. I choose to not have that negative interaction with him. I choose to just be like, hey, yeah, I saw him a few times.
So for the record, like the negative interactions that you might be able to expect from a George Lucas in this day and age, he's a really cool person. I want to get that out first before I say anything else about George. He's awesome. He donates billions to charity. I'm pretty sure he gave every school in our entire area the computers they used for a long time. He's been supplying local schools with technology. He's started a lot of foundations for helping people in need, especially kids. He's a really cool person. Just if you ever get to read some of his like personal works about himself, his like personal philosophies and stuff are kind of cool to listen to. And he seems to be a really cool person if you actually know him. Now, his reputation with kids in the Bay Area. If you've ever worked at a movie theater that George Lucas has visited, you've probably been told not to talk to him, not to approach him, and not to mention his name, not to introduce yourself to him, because he has a reputation for getting employees in trouble. He doesn't like being recognized in public, supposedly. And he doesn't like being interacted with when he's not working, essentially, which is understandable to a point, but he has a pretty negative reputation about it in the workspaces I used to work at.
At Borders, back when Borders was the thing, and at the movie theater.
Yeah.
Like a guy at the movie theater got fired because he handed George Lucas a drink and said, "There you are, Mr. Lucas."
Yep, that was a thing.
He got fired.
And there were horror stories, even before that happened, there were horror stories like from the moment I started working at the theater, from past employees or old employees or just employees that have been there a while, about George Lucas. He's a really cool guy who's just kind of a dick sometimes, it seems. A famous story of him being a dick was like he stood in front of one of his posters at the release of like, was it episode 2?
No, it was the Clone Wars.
It was the Clone Wars? Yeah. So, wait, was it the Clone Wars or was it episode 2?
No, the Clone Wars.
Oh god,
so
that's
like
even
the
worse.
Animated movie, the one that was meant for kids.
Yeah, the one that was meant for kids. And like he like got mad at anyone who like approached him, recognizing him in front of his own poster. Like that's just.
Go ahead, man. We went way off track here, but yeah, going back to my conspiracy theories. Yeah, so going back to my conspiracy theory on why Bob Iger came out about this, not George Lucas. Basically, I feel like it kind of all comes down to Bob Iger's mentality might have been that George Lucas really wants to work on episode 9. I'm sure, Bob Iger wants to have him there for episode 9, not necessarily because he thinks he'll add that much to the movie, but because it looks good for the press to have the original guy working on it. So, it may be a noble reason and it may not be. Who knows?
What's really weird is that it looks good to general press and looks really weird to fans because there's a side that really likes it and a side that really hates it, that he has any involvement at any time.
Exactly. That's what's kind of funny about it. But I think that he knew that once episode 9 was done and once George Lucas had nothing to lose, that got something caught in my throat. But that George Lucas would probably come forward about like how he felt betrayed.
So you think he's like getting ahead of the?
I think he's getting ahead of it, telling his side of the story before George Lucas tells his, and he's trying not to hold. He's trying to hold back as little as possible about it.
That way, the backlash can be as
little
as possible.
Exactly.
Especially given that George isn't making a statement on it right now.
Exactly. That's all my theory.
So later he can claim, well, George didn't correct me.
Yeah. They don't. Basically, he doesn't want to pull a Channel Awesome because being like, oh, we have all this evidence of how much of an asshole these people are, and then Channel Awesome being like, oh, it's all lies.
God.
And then they lose like half of their subscribers, which they were at like 2 million. So having a million subscribers may not seem bad, but when your subscriber base was over 2 million, that's really fucking bad.
Yeah, it's a really big difference too when you're cutting from that big a number halfway down.
Yeah.
Like if you have 2 cupcakes and you lose half of your cupcakes, it's not much. When you have 100 cupcakes and you lose 50 of them, that's a lot. When you have 2 million cupcakes and you lose 1 million cupcakes, what the fuck did you do? How many cupcakes did you drop?
My question to you is, how the fuck did you get a hold of 2 million cupcakes? And where can I go to...
I have my sources.
All right. One more Star Wars related topic.
All right.
And this one I'm actually really excited to hear your thoughts on.
Actually, I hate to do this. I may have an additional one to talk about.
Okay. We could probably fit it in.
First, let's do yours.
Let's do this one, because I think you'll actually be really excited about this.
Okay.
So, it has been announced now
that
Kevin Feige is now working on a Star Wars project.
This I am excited for. Yeah. And it makes a lot of sense, because Star Wars is part of the Marvel comic book universe.
In a way, it is, yeah.
They're published by Marvel.
The comic books for Star Wars are definitely all published by Marvel now. And technically they were. Technically, they also were back in like
because they had a crossover.
No, there was a run though back in I don't remember when.
Dark Horse days?
No, it wasn't Dark Horse. That's what was weird. It's before Dark Horse. There was a period of time where Marvel was publishing
Star Wars originally. Yeah.
So
they like published the Transformers comics and I remember.
So there were a few other things that Marvel was publishing before Star Wars moved to Dark Horse, and now it's back to Marvel.
Because for a while Dark Horse was like the thing you went to if you were like doing an adaptation or like extended comic from like something that already existed in film.
I used to love reading Star Wars Tales. Star Wars Tales was like one of my favorite comic books as a kid. They were basically Star Wars Legends before Star Wars Legends.
Star Wars Tales were really cool, but I legit actually was in romantic love with the I think the Legacy comics was it what was called Star Wars Legacy, the post original trilogy comic book series. That followed the Skywalkers and that specifically followed my favorite Dark Jedi and Sith, Darth Krayt, Siddhartha Sadao or something, or something Sadao. I love those. I love those comics so hard. They introduced my favorite, still to this day, my favorite Sith, even over Revan. Revan's my favorite Jedi. Other than maybe Qui-Gon, but legit, Krayt, best Sith, period.
Cool. Yeah. So, what were we talking about? Oh, yeah, Kevin Feige.
Kevin Feige.
And, like, honestly, I'm like, I know a lot of people are kind of theorizing if this is going to be his way of dipping his toe into becoming like more creatively involved with Star Wars in general.
You know what I'd love? If he replaced Kathleen Kennedy.
I don't know about replacing, because I really like Kathleen Kennedy.
What if he finally gave Marvel over to a new creative lead and he replaced Kathleen Kennedy?
I like Kathleen Kennedy, so I wouldn't want him to fully replace her.
I would,
but I wouldn't mind him being part of the creative team every once in a while, like having some input.
I'm the reverse. I'm okay with Kathleen Kennedy being part of the creative team. I don't want her in charge.
Okay,
she's made too many bad decisions, and they're like so bad they broke the fan base bad decisions. She has some really cool decisions and a couple really bad ones.
The only thing that I kind of would blame a lot on her and Bob Iger together, the one thing that I will agree that they kind of took away from Star Wars, but I mean, it was inevitable once it went to Disney, is Episode 7 is now the last Star Wars movie that we're ever going to see that's going to feel like an event. Because before Episode 7, even when Star Wars movies came out, like in a row for the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, it was every 3 years. And then once Disney took over,
You're talking about the every other year thing.
Yeah, the fact that they changed
I actually
it,
totally disagree with this.
To me, the biggest issue was that when they took it and made it so it comes out not only every other year, but then you have a spin-off in between those years.
Yeah, I
it
disagree
makes
with
it
this.
so it's like you can still go see a Star Wars movie and have fun. It also
was
means
Avengers
that,
Endgame a satisfying experience? Would you say that's an event?
Let me finish first.
All right.
But But yeah, so anyways, that's the thing, is that when it comes out every year, it no longer really feels like that much of an event anymore. It feels like you're just kind of seeing another fun Star Wars movie, which, again, isn't bad. Like, I still am going to watch them. I'm going to enjoy them.
Come out a year.
Exactly. The Marvel movies, with the exception of Endgame, don't... actually,
and
I'll even
Infinity
say...
War,
I'll even
and
say,
Civil
actually...
War, and Avengers,
the Avengers
and
movies,
Ultron.
are kind of the exception-ish.
And the non-Avengers Avengers movies, like Civil War, is not an Avengers movie.
It didn't feel like an event to me. It just felt like going to see another really good Marvel movie.
Civil War?
Yeah.
Civil War felt like an event to me.
It didn't for me, personally.
Dude, I had people literally stand up and clap at parts of the movie. That doesn't happen at regular movies.
It was a great movie. It didn't feel like an event to me.
Every Avengers movie feels like an event.
The first Avengers felt like an event.
Ultron absolutely felt like an event. Ultron, we literally go see like the 14 movie lead into it or something? Like we saw like we participated in an actual event for it.
In a way, yeah. It just didn't feel as much of an event as the first Avengers movie, because the first Avengers movie was like this is actually possible. This is coming together. We can actually get this movie we've been wanting since we were like really young. I
actually think this is like what's like the opposite of nostalgia. I feel like this is like a nostalgia argument. Where like I think at the time it was as big an event as Avengers 1. I think post-mortem, it feels like less of an event.
Maybe that's
like
it.
Post-mortem, I think Avengers 1 feels like a bigger event because it's certainly a more important one. But I don't think it was actually a bigger one. In fact, I think we could look at box office records to show it wasn't an actual bigger one by a significant margin.
The first one definitely did more than the second one.
It did more. Not to such a significant margin that I would call one an event and one not an event. Both Avengers movies outperformed everything else that came out in their respective years.
Nope. Avengers 2 was outperformed by The Force Awakens.
Oh,
I had a
that's
bet.
Not that. You can't. That doesn't count.
I had a bet
that's cheating.
I had a bet with Joe on this. A friend of mine from the movie theater. He was so sure that Avengers 2 was going to outperform Force Awakens.
It's Star Wars' return.
Yeah.
You can't beat Star Wars' return.
Yeah, but. Yeah, and
just like in 20 years, if Disney lost the rights after Episode 9, in 20 years when some new company opened up a new Star Wars film, it would be the biggest film that year, too.
Yeah, I fully agree. And that's kind of, to me anyways, like, to me, that's why Star Wars always felt like an event, with how few and far in between, like, we'd get Star Wars movies.
I disagree with this. I really disagree with this. I think whether or not a movie feels like an event is simply on how well it's made, how well it's advertised, and how well the critical reception is leading into it, because that is what influences how many people show up to it, what the fan base was like both before and afterwards, whether or not it's really open or really closed. The hype train is a really big point to like things feeling like an event. Hype train for episode 7, spectacular. Hype train for episode 8, not as spectacular. They did a lot of different stuff with the episode 8 advertising run that felt more like a standard movie and less like an event movie. I really don't think it's the fact that they came out every other year or that we have multiple Star Wars. You could have a dozen Star Wars movies in a year, and I guarantee you the first time they make a Boba Fett movie, it's going to feel like an event. That you could have a dozen Star Wars movies a year, and when you bring back Obi-Wan Kenobi for a movie, it's going to feel like an event. I completely disagree with the idea that something feeling like an event is because it happens too often. You know what feels like an event every year? The fair. To everyone. No one ever says the fair isn't an event. You know what feels like an event every year? Christmas. Christmas is an event every year. You know how many holidays we have every year? And how they repeat every year? Those are all events. And they happen every year. And they all feel like events. New Year's always feels like an event. This is not a valid argument.
I mean, that's fair. It goes to, no pun intended, because you brought up the fair earlier. But I will say this, though. To me, then, let me rephrase it to saying that in general, yes, I'm sure there's plenty of people who will always see Star Wars movies as an event to them. Just to me, and even then, to an extent, yes, it'll feel like an event to me.
Rogue
to an extent.
One kind of felt like an event.
But to me, it doesn't have that same feeling. I don't think I'll ever have that same feeling going into a Star Wars movie as I did with Episode 7.
You know, I agree with you. But not because that happens too often. I agree with you because the movies have turned into a pile of garbage. The fan base has turned into a pile of mush. 2 stacks of mashed potatoes, one of which has sweet gravy and one of which has sour gravy. And they hate each other and won't talk to each other anymore. And the community has been divided for so long. It's only now starting to piece itself back together. Episode 8 scared people off. Solo's disappointment scared people off. People got tired of bad Star Wars or subpar Star Wars. We had a sling of TV shows that were all bad or subpar.
Yes,
we
shows
did.
have been good. With the exception of the Lego shows.
Rebels, I'm sorry, Rebels was a disappointment. Rebels had really good moments and was pretty good overall. Rebels was a disappointment. They clearly had budgeting problems with it, production problems. While they brought back the original art style for like the concept art of Star Wars, they lost a lot of the like artistic cohesion. Because of it, they made it way too kid-friendly. Plot got too samey. Every other episode seemed to be they dress as a stormtrooper and infiltrate the stormtroopers and then escape at the last minute. And then Resistance happened, and that was so bad it got canceled.
Not canceled. It's ending.
No, it got canceled.
I haven't heard
they
anything
canceled
about it
the
getting
fudge
canceled.
out of it. Yeah.
I just heard it's ending, and it makes sense because it's supposed to be a bridge between episode 8 and 9. And given that the time gap between not 8 and 9, sorry, 7 to 9, because it's supposed to kind of go over some stuff that happens in between episode 7 and like 8 and 9 as well. But like, there's not really that much you can cover with that. So I don't think it was canceled, but I could be wrong. I think it had to do with just they only wanted to do 2 seasons of it, but maybe I'm wrong. I guess it was canceled.
You are definitely wrong. It definitely got canceled.
Okay, I was wrong. I guess Star Wars Resistance was canceled.
Yeah. That, like I said, this is like they've had a slew of things that are so unsuccessful and poorly made that it's not going to feel like an event. Maybe JJ coming back might be able to bring it back, but I haven't seen a hype train building for 9 yet. I've seen hype trains for a lot of other things. I've seen hype trains for Mandalorian. I've seen a much more minor hype train in the like hardcore community about Clone Wars returning. I've seen a little bit of hype, but no hype train for the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. But you know what's not getting much hype? Episode 9 doesn't have much hype. It doesn't have like even your average Marvel movies worth of hype.
Yeah, I guess we're going to have to wait and see. But I do want to say one quick thing. So far, with Disney and Star Wars, me personally, I haven't been disappointed by, except for maybe Resistance, and even then I have to at least watch the show before I fully say it was disappointed. But I literally love every Star Wars movie we've gotten from Disney, including Episode 7, 8, Rogue One, and Solo. I love all of them.
I don't love all of them.
And
I hate one of them.
And I really love most of the comic books that we've gotten. I say most of them because there are a few that have been like a little weird and bizarre. But
I've
for
been
the most
really
part,
into the Vader comic. I'm really disappointed with the more recent Kylo comics, though.
I haven't
they
read
feel
those
like
yet.
Post-mortem justifications for things that have been happening in Episode 8.
Haven't read those yet, but I've read the mainline Star Wars and then some of some of the Vader comics, and those are really good. Yeah. But with all that being said, I just want to make this clear: if you don't like any of the stuff Disney has done so far with Star Wars, if you don't like The Last Jedi, if you don't like Solo, I love all of you guys, because you know what? We're all part of the same fan base. We all feel so passionately about it.
You guys need to stop shitting on Solo. Stop that. It's a pretty good movie. Stop that.
Yeah, I really
don't be dicks to Solo.
Still want to see.
Was it great? Maybe not. Was it good? Yeah.
You know what Kevin Feige would be perfect for, actually? One last Solo type movie without Solo being the main character, but Solo being in it, and this would be the plot.
Lando.
It would be
make it Lando movie.
Maybe him being the main character could work, but here's what the plot would be: it would be Solo
Chewbacca movie,
having a job with a bunch of other bounty hunters that Jabba hires him for, and they have to deliver cargo to Jabba. But Boba Fett, we know, works with the Empire and with Jabba the Hutt, so maybe the Empire is offering him a bigger bargain for what the crate is. So Boba Fett, while the cargo is on the Millennium Falcon, tips off the Empire, and then Han Solo gets boarded and has to drop the cargo.
Except for that
Boom!
Happened way, way, way later.
They could age him up and make him look like Harrison Ford.
No, they can't.
They don't have to. I don't care.
I'm sorry. They chose the one actor that did tryouts that doesn't look like Harrison Ford. I don't understand why they chose him.
They could just do.
Listen,
they could just make it an animated film.
As much as I genuinely really like Solo, their casting choices were awful in that movie, just across the board.
I will disagree with Chewbacca.
The
suit actor for
Chewbacca was actually
is
really
perfect.
Good. Yeah.
I feel like suit actors nowadays don't get enough credit.
Yeah,
but
their Chewbacca guy was
Man.
fantastic.
Yeah,
and
Chewbacca's been amazing. And then another
I was
suit
okay
actor
with Vision being the bad guy.
Yeah.
His part was kind of lamely written, but it was he was well performed for what it was.
Well, yeah, no, he for being such a small part in the movie, he did really good for
Solo's girlfriend. Coolest Solo's girlfriend.
Yeah. So yeah, I really like a lot
Emilia
of
Clarke.
Yeah, that was
that was Emilia Clarke.
Yeah, it was Emilia Clarke. Okay. Yeah, Game of Thrones and all that. So yeah, I mean, like I said, so I've liked Disney Star Wars so far. It just, to me personally, no longer feels like the event that Episode 7 and that Episode 3 was.
So speaking of Star Wars not feeling like an event anymore, my other Star Wars topic was the new trailer for Star Wars Fallen Order. The video game came out yesterday or 2 days ago.
You're right.
And I hate it.
Really?
So I already had my doubts and fears about this game, which sucks because I've been really looking forward to it. It's being made by Respawn, who I love, the developers of Titanfall and Titanfall 2. It's being made in an age where we have Star Wars Battlefront, which is, while not the best Star Wars game, the most beautiful Star Wars game. Photorealistic graphics at every turn, gorgeous. Mm-hmm. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but it looks like crap. The combat looks good, it just doesn't look Star Wars. If the main character didn't have a lightsaber, I'd like it a lot more. Speaking of the main character's lightsaber, the lightsabers look like crap. The main character's lightsaber looks like a flashlight. It acts like a flashlight too. And it's not like a physical blade. It's not like if you go back and play any old Star Wars game, they get lightsabers right. Lightsabers are a blade, they're a physical object, and they look like movie accurate in terms of their colors. This doesn't. This has a weird off color. It doesn't have a proper white core. It has a weird bulbous bit in the middle, and it's not actually like a bulbous bit, but it widens for some reason, and it looks very nervous. The light phases through like past the hilt head, like the light is coming out of the hilt itself for some reason. And no, I don't just mean the cut in the hilt where like it lowers a bit, like even past that point. You can see through the blade to the other side of the lightsaber hilt. Like you can see the full ring when it's activated, which you shouldn't be able to because it's a physical blade in the middle of. I hate it. They like the blades seem to lag behind in some of the cutscenes they showed in the trailer. For some reason, the light doesn't come off the blade properly, so if you move it a couple inches, it stops projecting light. The blue doesn't project light in the fight cutscene thing. The red overpowers it entirely, so you can't see any blue glow effect on either of the people's faces. There's all sorts of issues I have with it now, and that's beyond the gameplay stuff that I was already worried about, where lightsabers don't cut people's arms off. There's no dismemberment in the game. Lightsabers don't do significant damage to spiders for some reason. The Force abilities look pretty cool, but I don't get why they're doing the Kylo Ren trick. They shouldn't be doing the Kylo Ren trick. If they want to do Force speed, cool. Kylo Ren, no. I don't like what they're doing with the wall running. Titanfall, perfect wall running. This looks like Sands of Time. It looks like a default wall run with like a weird parabola that goes and like clearly is meant to fall if you don't press jump at a certain point. I hate it. I hate everything about it.
Yeah. Okay. I saw the trailer once last night when I was really tired, and I'm like, this looks really cool. I'm excited.
The combat looks really cool. In general, the combat looks really cool.
The one thing I will say, though, because I can't really debate you on any of these things, because I've only seen it once, and, and from what I saw, everything about it looked really cool, and I'm still excited about the game.
I have issues.
The one
I
thing,
have worries and fears. They could fix all this before release, by the way. All of the things I mentioned are all, like, basic lighting things
basic
and crap.
patches.
Like,
and knowing EA, they probably made those problems on purpose just so they could have people pay for patches later.
No, don't joke like that. It scares me.
I wish I was joking. Fuck EA. But going on to one thing you brought up, which I actually kind of found funny, is the first thing that popped into my mind was, and please hear me out before correcting me on this, because I do have, let me finish this part. But first thing that popped into my mind was, trying to program a physics engine to have a lightsaber that consistently cuts through everything would be a lot. And then I remembered immediately after I thought that, is that when you go back to Dark Forces 2 or Dark Forces 3, or technically Jedi Knights 2, whatever, the titling for those games were weird. They were able to get that right, and those were PC, like early PlayStation 2 era games. In fact, I think one of them was actually released on the Xbox, so not even on the PC. So even the Xbox, the regular Xbox, was able to get the dismemberment right. So it is weird to me that
Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy came out in like 2001.
Yeah. And so it's weird to me that years later, 2008, you have a game, The Force Unleashed, which is advertising how amazing its physics engine is because you can pick everything up. So it's like weird. You could get all that right, but yet you can't get dismemberments right. So is it a graphics? Is it because it takes effort to do? Or is it just because like nowadays they might be more strict about what makes a T-rated game and what makes an M-rated game? Like even if there's no blood, could dismembering actually end up giving you an M rating?
Not if it's non-humanoids. I don't get why the spiders couldn't be dismembered.
Okay, fair enough.
But even past that, our friend Fen, Fen Hot Sauce, pointed out something that I found ridiculous, but is absolutely true. You know why they got lightsabers right before? Because it's actually easier to do them right than it is to do them wrong. It is easier on your engine to make them a physical object than it is to make them a translucent light beam that has physical properties. They had to actively make it harder to produce the game in order to make some of these flaws.
That's funny. But like I said, I've only seen the trailer once and I really enjoyed it. So I don't know. Maybe I have to watch it 3 more times.
I love the first trailer, and now I'm almost like certain that the reason I love it is because they don't show the lightsaber in it. The last frame is him igniting the lightsaber, and it only shows part of the blade for like a brief moment, and that's it.
Okay.
And I'm almost certain they did this on purpose now, because this looks awful now.
You know what this all leads to, though? The main problem with Star Wars in general. They need to release 1313 already.
For real.
God
they need
damn
to
it.
stop canceling that game. Oh my god.
Give us 1313, please. So now, I think we're going to move on to this last topic. And for those of you who thought we weren't going to talk about it, come on. It's us.
Come on.
But
I watched the past 8 versions of me. I know the past 8 versions of me talk about this a lot.
Yeah.
You weren't going to get away with this. This version of me talks about this a lot too.
So, Spider-Man is finally back in the MCU, and it's confirmed.
We got more Spider-Man news this morning as of recording.
Yep. We weren't even going to talk about it. I was thinking to myself,
legit,
finally, we get a Go-A podcast without talking about Spider-Man.
Yesterday, I actually thought we were going to go a week where we didn't fucking bring up Spider-Man. I was like, I'm not even going to bring it up as a joke. I'll make a joke about the next week. Like, hey, last week we didn't bring up Spider-Man.
And that should have been a topic that we should have a topic where we did bring up Spider-Man. We talked about how we did bring up Spider-Man.
Exactly. That was going to be the joke. But now we can't even, because there was more news this morning.
As we were getting ready.
Spider-Man is confirmed to be back in the MCU. The next Spider-Man will be made by Marvel again. And Spider-Man will appear in a additional movie. One movie. Additional movie that isn't necessarily a Spider-Man movie.
Yeah. And on top of all this, so one thing that was also very interesting, a very weird quote, but an interesting quote nonetheless from Kevin Feige, because it can be interpreted a couple ways, is he says Spider-Man's superpower is being able to go from one cinematic universe to another and then back again.
Yeah,
which heavily implies that
they'll be producing in both universes at once.
Yeah, Spider-Man 3 might actually have some tie-ins that in the Sony the Sony Venomverse, which I guess now we can just call the Spider-Verse, because now that they got Spider-Man in that Venomverse, there's no reason that they'd stick with the name Venomverse. I mean, technically they don't even have an actual name for it anyway, so why not just call it?
It's true.
So. Yeah, this is actually kind of interesting, because then it means that they could go one of two directions. Like, either one, like, they could actually have Tom Holland physically go into this universe, or they could have him be the bridge that basically connects the two different universes now. So now we know that the Venomverse, the Spider-Man Venomverse, are connected into the MCU.
So you want to know a little bit more detail that's going to make the reason I have a very specific prediction true?
Yeah.
We also got a lot of hints this week that Sony is planning on making a Madam Web movie, or a movie primarily featuring Madam Web somehow.
I saw that in some articles, but I didn't read any of them.
I read some of them. It sounds dubious to me. It doesn't sound solid to me, but it would make a lot of sense given this new news, because they could have Spider-Man appear in his next movie and introduce Madam Web in it, and then have the movie he's in the MCU tie into the fact that he's been traveling the multiverse. And in the interim, they can have him actually enter the multiverse because Madam Web. And that can be their reason for shunting him from one universe to the other at will, period. That he will just be able to go back and forth. He'll be called back and forth by Madam Web, because he's, MCU 616 Spider-Man, whatever.
A lot of people keep trying to say 616, but that's not accurate at all. MCU is something. I know that has a lot of nines in it. It's like 8999999
I
or
know,
something.
but they tried to canonize it as 616 with Far
No, they
From
didn't.
Home.
That was the joke. That was the joke, is that was just the number he brought up, but the joke was that wasn't actually the right number. That was just what he brought up as a joke.
I hope so, except for there's another issue. Into the Spider-Verse referenced Peter Parker, the old fucked up one, coming from 616.
Well, okay, here's the thing about that.
Or maybe that the 616 was the one with the dead Peter Parker.
Here's the thing about that, is that the Marvel universe, much like every comic book universe, has had so many people going through time, changing their own history. There are so many different timelines in the 616 universe. Timelines and universes are different things. So we're aware, you can have an infinite amount of timelines within the same universe. So
theoretically, there's actually an explanation for how every different timeline is a different universe too.
Yeah, but they're still like in different universes within one universe. So you have an infinite amount of 616 universes
sometimes,
with timelines,
but not necessarily. So that is the rule. But there's I think it was a Fantastic Four comic that like soft canonized that like timelines are in the universe, right? Until they're not. Like there's like literally a case in which I'll use the most clear example I have of this. Spider-Man 2099 originally was the future of the 616 universe. It is not any longer, but the canonical 2099 Spider-Man is in the 616 universe nonetheless. And the reason for that is because bringing him back from the future separated 616's future into a different universe like 21703 or something. Meaning that you can create universes from a universe. Universes can split off of timelines into their own branches of universality. So like you can start a universe in a timeline. So like not all universes start at year 0. Some universes start at year 2099, which is weirdly fantastic, and I love it.
So my theory is that Peter Parker from 616, that even though that technically wouldn't make sense, is that it's from an early timeline of 616. Like an early timeline, and I say early because this Peter Parker clearly hasn't been to different universes before. Otherwise, he'd say that this kind of thing is normal for him. But it's not, because he said like in the beginning, this is really weird even for him. So I feel like this is a very early timeline 616 that got teleported to, Miles's universe. And then when getting teleported back, we're going to find out, or maybe we're not going to physically find out, but this is what's going to happen is that universe is going to change through all the different deals with the devil, through all the different time changes that I was actually going to say, universe.
I can directly support you here. You can say that the version of 616 he came from is the timeline in which One More Day happens and stays happened. Where the deal with the devil keeps and never goes away. Because in the main universe, they've reversed One More Day essentially now. It's gone. One More Day is dead. It's dying. They're gonna legit decanonize the crap out of that. So, and in doing so, I think we can now say that version of 616, the One More Day 616 is the shit 616. It's the shit verse with sweatpants Peter Parker.
So yeah, that's like, it bothered me too when I saw that in theaters, and I'm like, wait, are they saying this is 616 universe Spider-Man? Cool. But then when this Spider-Man then mentioned that that he's never been to another universe before, I'm like, wait, you can't say this is 616 Spider-Man but not have him be, I went all like kind of nerd out on it. I'm like, well, this kind of bugs me. So
bugs.
Yeah, he's not a bug, he's a fucking spider. Fuck. But anyways, that was always it's like what I do all the time whenever things don't add up to me. I always like to make headcanons, and this is my headcanon for that personally, and I think it works-ish. It works for me personally.
Do you know what my previous headcanon literally was?
What?
There was a glitch on the monitor. For some reason, that quarter of the monitor was reversed. Like it was like flipped upside down.
So it was
actually 919.
That too.
That's just headcanon. It was a glitch, and everyone was too scared that Fisk was over the shoulder to correct it. Like, don't correct it; it'll look like a mistake.
Yeah, I always imagine though, if there was a 919 universe in Marvel, it would be like the Earth 3 version of DC, where everyone's a villain essentially. Or all the bad guys are good guys, and all the good guys are bad guys.
Man, speaking of bad guys in Spider-Man, I keep forgetting who is like DC's villain that's literally Spider-Man. Like they have a villain that is literally looks, acts, and webs like Spider-Man.
Yeah, and he's
but
in,
it's just like a random baddie that never shows up anymore.
If you guys have seen Young Justice, you know exactly who we're talking about because he was even in season 3.
Yeah, he was. Oh yeah.
Like, and I correct me if I'm wrong here, but doesn't he even use the web slinger the same way?
He literally does. Either I think he might do this.
Yeah.
Instead of this, I think maybe he does this, but that's like, or I don't know, or maybe this. But he does something that looks like this, and it's dumb as crap.
It is. So the reason I'm super excited though for Tom Holland coming back to the MCU. Okay, I mentioned this to you before.
Yeah.
I mentioned this to you before. My biggest thing that bothers me is cliffhanger endings. I hate cliffhanger endings so much, very much. Now, open endings I don't mind as much, but the ending of Spider-Man Far From Home was not an open ending. It was a cliffhanger ending. And so it went from being my favorite cliffhanger ending to my least favorite cliffhanger ending as soon as I found out it probably wasn't going to get resolved. So now finding out that he's back in the MCU for a third Spider-Man film and that this cliffhanger will more than likely be resolved now has me so hyped for it. Now has me like excited knowing that if they do this last movie and it gives closure for everything, it'll probably be really awesome. And speaking of which, Marvel, if you do not give this movie closure, I will be really upset. I will put my foot so far in Kevin Feige's ass that his nose will be bleeding. I'm kidding. I will not.
Be Kevin Feige's fault, though.
But please, don't end Spider-Man 3 on a cliffhanger. Do not do that. Just let it conclude.
Please don't. Just let Sony have him.
No, just let
stop
it
making.
Worst case scenario, or best case scenario, you get him back, and then you can do another set of movies too. That's fine. But this one, just in the worst case scenario that you don't get him back again, which is a possibility, let it just end, please. Just so I don't have to worry every time. I don't have to constantly look at my phone to see if he's coming back to the MCU or not. I just want closure, so even if he doesn't come back to the MCU, I can be satisfied as a fan that, oh, we're not going to see Spider-Man anymore, but that's okay because he had a great ending. And it's like Avatar: The Last Airbender, when that show ended. I wasn't mad when that show ended, even though it only lasted 3 seasons, because it had an amazing ending.
That had like maybe the best ending of almost anything ever.
If anything, I would have been pissed if they made a season
4.
Full
Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, amazing ending.
Yeah, so just let it end is all I'm asking you, Marvel. Let it end.
Star Wars Episode 6,
amazing ending. So yeah,
Star Wars Episode 7, good cliffhanger ending.
So yeah,
Star Wars Episode 8. Shit, garbage ending. Episode 8 sucks. There we go.
I fucking love the ending of Episode 8, especially the last shot was so fucking amazing. Okay, but anyways, we finished talking about Star Wars. Let's move on to Spider-Man. So what are you excited for or least excited for?
I'm excited for him to still pop up in Sony movies. So Morbius, Venom. Are they still doing Kraven? Sure, Kraven. Maybe Black Cat.
I know for sure they're definitely doing Venom 2
and then Morbius. Morbius is like done.
And then they keep saying, but then not bringing anything else up about it, that they're doing Kraven the Hunter.
Yeah.
And then Black Cat and Silver Sable, I haven't heard anything about that since like early 2015.
Yeah, it's been a while since we heard news about them. But God damn it, I don't. Listen, I'm going to be that guy. I'm that guy. All versions of me are that guy. I'm that guy. I just don't want him in the MCU. No, that's not accurate. I do want him in the MCU. I just don't like the MCU's Spider-Man. I don't like it as Spider-Man. I love it as a movie franchise. I love it as a teen comedy superhero show. I really just don't care about it as a Spider-Man movie. Far From Home was better. The end was better. It had a good scene. It had one of the best scenes in live-action Spider-Man movie history. Felt like a video game, looked like a video game, but it was still really good. The Mysterio.
I figured that's what you were talking about.
Which, by the way, literally looked like PS4 graphic video game. Not an insult. That shit looks really beautiful. But it didn't look live action and it didn't look real.
It was CG, and you could definitely tell.
Yeah.
But I was okay with that just because it was all done with, like, in canon of the movie special effects. And I just realized my computer is not plugged in.
Well, hot damn.
So I should do that.
You should
real
do that
quick.
before
Keep
it
talking.
dies.
Yeah.
I was actually really disappointed they didn't have a physical. I'm really disappointed in the Marvel Spider-Man being a digital creation. I am still really disappointed. I am saddened that their primary usage of the Spider-Man suit is CG. I think it's a tragedy that they allowed Tom Holland to have one of the best looking physical suits of all time and don't let him use it. I think almost everything about how they choose to interact with the Spider-Man actor in suit is actually sad. It saddens me.
We're going to have to wrap up here real soon because I'm just finding out now that my computer is running out of space. So,
all right.
But
computer running out of space.
So,
right,
my last conclusion to this.
Yeah, what is your conclusion to what are you looking forward to or liking about this?
I kind of already said what I'm looking forward to about it, but
Fair
I'm just
enough.
going to say that I just wanted to make one thing clear. He doesn't speak for me. I love the MCU Spider-Man. That's it.
And he doesn't speak for me. I
Yep.
don't love the MCU Spider-Man as
All right.
Spider-Man.
All right, cool. As long as we're clear on that, we're going to wrap up and say that this was a fun podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining. If you listen to the full podcast, great. If not, that's okay because we're going to have 5 highlight videos for you this week. Not 3, 5 of them. So yeah, we'll hopefully see you next week too. Thank you guys again for joining us. Have an awesome day. And remember to try to tune in every Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning if you can.
I'll never see you again, but some other me will.
There you go.